Okay, welcome to another episode of the Disrupting Podcast with your host Alex Culler, myself Dana Donovic. We of course had to cover the Fisker price point that recently came out yesterday. Alex, where do you want to kick things off with?
Well, obviously, when the announcement for Fisker, when it was announced for its SPAC deal, looking at it raw up front, it was very exciting.
Yeah.
I even said it on a tweet, this is forever hold. And then when you dove deeper into the company, there's a lot of red flags. This $40 price target that we saw from Adam Jonas, who's just so amazing with his price targets, you could see
He
with
really hit a home run with Microvast, right?
yeah, $6 price target. Now it's up above $15.
Yep.
Only God only knows what's going to happen down the line. But for a company that doesn't have anything vertically integrated, that doesn't have their own factory, and really has no proprietary technology whatsoever, just a complete design, for you to say that it's a $40 price target just kind of blows my mind. I feel like I'm the only person that's kind of sane on Fintuit right now. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that we should all be cautiously, aware of where the company's at right now and how well positioned it is. De-SPACed. It de-SPACed in October of 2020. And, we just haven't seen anything yet. So for all the right reasons, speculation is in the air. I'll be the first for someone to turn me into a believer, but just the writing on the wall suggests that it's just not quite where it is, and nor does it merit this very rich price target, which, again, doesn't come from the most credible analyst.
No. And like, what's changed? What's changed in the dynamic of the company? Do they have a vehicle that's actually ready for production? Do they have a vehial that's even been...
No catalyst.
There's no catalyst that supported this. Their vehicle can't even be test rode in, as well as like nothing has changed.
Well, I think too, we never want to throw anyone under the bus.
No,
but we can say that we reached out to these guys to see if there was an opportunity for us to come and capture an experience and share it with our audience. And quite frankly, they just weren't prepared. They didn't have a vehicle for us to ride in. Again, hey, that's great that they weren't going to, fabricate something up front for us that wasn't just true to... But the long story short is, if I remember correctly, they did have an upcoming event sometime later this year that they were pretty excited about. It's just... I don't think anything, as we know, has happened in between. And so for all the right reasons, we have this doubt and reservation that, it just doesn't merit this price, or a price target, excuse me.
There was a huge reaction to Fisker. It's up 22% today after the announcement during after hours yesterday. There's still nothing that, like you said, nothing merits this type of change. But I'll say this is fueled by a lot of retail investors, as it's fueled by a major influencer on Twitter that put a lot of these investors into the situation. Remember Dave Portnoy?
Oh, yeah.
He pushed Fisker, or he couldn't even pronunciate it. He called it Fiskler. Investors into this. He pushed it as hard as he could. And look what happened. It pulled back all the way to $9. So clearly there's been a cult created because people have been put basically into a corner, and they're asking for help. And Adam Jonas provided it. So
but it feels temporary. I mean, there's going to be a sobering reality where people are going to do a deep dive, digest everything that we know to date, and come to the same realization that we have, that it just doesn't merit this price target. I mean, I'd be excited if it was true and there was something there. But, I mean, what are we missing, right?
We made a comparison. We posted on Disrupting. You and I both on our own Twitter, we posted this. And this is not trying to insult someone. It's just a feeling. If anyone's going to know this feeling of questionable companies, it's going to be me. And when you look at the dealings of the company, the overall structure of how they're being utilized, they don't have anything proprietary. Like you said, they're completely and utterly design based. They own the patents to the design. And that's what Henrik Fisker is all about. He's always been a designer. He's worked at all these other companies. He's been a great designer. He's helped design some amazing vehicles, but he's never been an execution type of a guy. He has a team on his board to help that, but they don't own anything of their own technology. They rely purely on third parties because they have a partnership with Magna and Foxconn, and there's still all major prototypes like alphas that aren't even available for us to utilize. You know what this kind of sounds like? It sounds like Nikola. It sounds like we have prototypes. Okay, we have a Nikola 2. We have a tray that's being created. But guess what? It's all by our third parties, with Iveco, with Bosch Motorsports, and all these other companies, and they have nothing of their own. Yet,
well, and the problem there too is, some of these smaller companies, inevitably there's consolidation, right? They have something that's proprietary, and a much bigger player comes in and brings them under their wing. But to your point, if you have nothing really substantial there, then that's not going to happen. So I think it's fair to say if you're a Fisker investor, you should be mindful of an exit strategy, and hopefully you've broken even. But if you haven't, come up with that strategy.
We've talked about things about companies that we absolutely love. And when groups come into play and try to make it move, we're happy about making profit. But you need to make sure to at least solidify it. And then when things consolidate, and like you said, Dana, when realization happens, pulls back and be like, nothing's changed, it's going to come back to the level it was prior to this major spike. So like I said, I've been up front and face to face with a lot of people that have been very questionable. And I wish that I could look back at it and be, hey, this doesn't make sense. There's no reason. And at least Fisker is somewhat upfront, stating that they're not going to have a vehicle ready until 2022. I'm happy about that. Henrik is definitely very busy on Twitter. I think he's kind of utilizing that to keep popularity for their company.
Yeah, you got to sustain some, enthusiasm for the product. Makes total sense.
Yes, but it's kind of like trying to keep the Fisker value alive. Like, why is he posting that much? What else is happening? Like, you should focus on getting this thing taken care of. You're obviously being pretty temperamental with your start date. You're not saying we're pushing up forward. Why not surprise investors, shareholders? Because clearly Magna has the power to make this happen now. Foxconn has the power to make it happen now. Why not try to push it? Maybe you can make it early 2022, not December 2022. Like, everyone has all that potential to do it for you now. What's holding you up?
Well, and maybe by design they said somewhere in 22 with the intention of what can we do to get there for a January, February release. Mm-hmm. So while we don't know that, maybe that's the general strategy. Heck, that'd be fantastic. The other thing too is if we look at the technical spec of the Ocean, I'm not as well versed with this as you are, but how does it going to fare with the Lucid Gravity, and even what is it, the R1 from Rivian? We know that the SUV sector, especially your EVs, is going to be red hot. We know, I would definitely still buy a Model Y over an Ocean.
Yes.
What's your immediate thought here? How, assuming all goes well, it's kumbaya, they get there February of 2022. Mm-hmm. How does this thing still fare? Where's the selling point? I know the economics are there, right? So they're aiming for a $40,000 some price point. Is that right?
Yeah. So the Fisker, the main thing that Fisker is pushing is the fact of sustainability.
Yeah.
There's nothing really any different between you and a lot of other companies. Polestar does sustainability, but they also create just as good amount of designs. They have the manufacturing. They have all these other things, even performance. There's nothing really different than you. There's nothing really crazy innovative. The price point for a Fisker Ocean is between $37,000 base price. Wow. That's including, in order to hit that level, you have to obviously get your credit,
the tax rebate.
Yeah, the tax rebate. And then as high as $70,000. The mile range is not that high. It's between 280 miles to around 300 miles per charge, which is all right.
Yeah, that's decent.
But looking at the whole vehicle as itself, I hope these things work. I hope this technology
Yeah.
does work, but the solar panel on the top of the vehicle seems kind of a gimmick play.
I think it's a
Um,
really cool concept.
it's cool,
Yeah.
but it seems kind of gimmicky.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, again, there's really not much there, right, for us to even discuss on that.
that's why I would love to have a test ride, but it's all this whole thing is that this whole thing we just want to sober people like come at it with some kind of a common sense thing. No one has had a hand on this vehicle outside of Fisker. So
Yeah.
no one has been able to test ride it and see the technology for themselves. For this price point to be at $40 per price per share is completely insane.
Oh, it's
Nothing has
outrageous.
changed. And I'm going to add this, and this is going to hurt some people's feelings. Fisker does not have a good history of producing a good vehicle.
Yeah,
Back,
the karma.
yeah, the Karma completely has had faulty technology with their batteries. There's been rumors, speculation from people in the other industry around them is that they weren't even able to test out the battery technology prior to it getting out to the consumers. It's a hybrid vehicle. And from reviews, the battery technology always has an error code happening, faulty. It
Well,
always
just
has
think,
to be.
what does that say? They expended a lot of resources and a shit ton of money to develop a car that they inevitably just said, we're going to scrap this. I
Yep.
mean, whoa. Again, I'm not here to shed, shade on Fisker. I'm just trying to calibrate people's expectations. But man, that's a pretty substantial fuck up,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Like all the vehicles, like the Karma was sexy. It looked great.
Oh my God, it looked like a Maserati, sedan.
Wait, Henrik creates very sexy vehicles from the Emotion to the Karma. They look great. I was really excited for the Emotion. When I saw the Emotion, like, wow, this is like a Corvette. This is
Yeah.
this is sports car ready. And immediately as soon as they started pushing it, it got delayed. It keeps on getting delayed. Battery technology. They have problems with their Karma. Delay. And obviously, they filed bankruptcy.
And I don't know if it's fair to draw a comparison, but we've done some work with Faraday Future, who we think the world of. We know that they too had a very turbulent past, but how they were able to successfully correct their course was by bringing in Dr. Karsten Breitfeld, who has a track record of bringing EV cars to market with BMW's i8 program. And so, I'm just spitballing here. My immediate thought is perhaps Henrik needs someone of that caliber and experience to be able to deliver on production, to be able to get these fine details that, YT Yang, who is a visionary, a design, enthusiast, couldn't, necessarily do all, by himself in the timely fashion that he needed to. So perhaps that's the missing piece. It just looks like an incomplete puzzle right now,
Yeah, and I'm looking at the investor presentation, looking at the team, and just overall, he did surround himself with a lot of people that could help him that has experience with Volkswagen, with Tesla, with Nissan, BMW, GM, but really.
So the infrastructure's there. But even too, going back to your original point, it's not vertically integrated. So while they have these great, partners that are going to provide all the parts, I mean, you still have a business model that is dependent on third parties.
On Big Brother.
And when you're a publicly traded company and you have, very critical, substantial milestones that literally will dictate whether or not, the stock goes up or down, that's got to put a shit ton of pressure on your team to be able to deliver, let alone those third parties to be able to deliver. Which again, I look at this as like, let's just assume everything is kumbaya. Let's go back and look at the technical spec. If you know anything about consumers these days, they're incredibly savvy. You don't go on Amazon and not buy something without looking at, the price, the feature set matrix against other products or customer reviews. So again, if you have an option to buy this or that, I think people are savvy enough to say, gosh, I think I feel a little bit more comfortable paying a little bit more for the Model Y or the Rivian, or I'm going to wait and see if this is what they say it is. So again, there's just some real big like neurological hurdles there for a consumer, I think. Do you see a pullback coming with the stock price? I mean, we know this Adam Jonas guy. Not really credible lately, and
it's gonna pull back. It's gonna pull back hard. I think it's gonna have its day today. If you're a smart investor, you're gonna most likely scalp a little bit, and then it's gonna come back to the realizations that nothing has changed. Yeah. Nothing has changed whatsoever. So it's probably gonna go back to the $16, $15 price range, and it's gonna consolidate until October, until that auto show happens and they actually can present something. Yep. Look, when companies are a little bit more like this, when a CEO is very public on Twitter, when people are talking, that's not really something to look forward to. I fell in love with talking to Trevor Milton. Like, it was great that he was always giving us updates, but why are you on Twitter? Why aren't you doing something else for the company? That's what needs to happen. Like, he needs to focus on taking care of the company, working with them to make this happen, and give us, give us a vehicle that can be test driven, a test ride, something. But nothing has changed. The margin of revenue is going to be so minimal with them going through a third party company. I would rather them have brought the vehicle out this year prior to 2022, because you're going to come into a saturated sector. Yeah. Rivian is going to be shooting out vehicles at that time, their SUV, the R1, that's going to be substantially outperforming anybody in the sector, and people are going to be going there. People are already pre-ordering them, as well as the Polestar 3's coming out. That's an SUV. So you're going to come out.
Both of those companies, as you know, they have the internal capabilities for mass production immediately, like flipping on a faucet and water just pouring out.
And the price point for every single one hasn't really been revealed yet. And I really want to know, how in the world can Fisker provide a vehicle for $37,000, around $40,000, and yet these other two aren't pushing that? The price point is going to be around $70,000 for each vehicle. Like, what's the difference here?
We know from talking with Lucid Motors, who doesn't want to be able to produce a vehicle that, meets the lower socioeconomic class, because that's where you can sell volume, right? And really create market share. But, that's easier said than done. We know that EV cars, the components aren't cheap. They're not easy to source.
No.
And if it were, all those things were true, or possible, then we'd have that vehicle today. Yeah. And even by the likes of like a GM, a Toyota, by one of these existing companies that are more than capable of producing it. So there's good reason that we haven't seen that yet. And more reason why, again, I think we're just cautiously saying, we're not skeptical so much, we're just saying be cautiously aware of and set your expectations. Do your own due diligence, do your own homework. Take everything with a grain of salt.
I want people to make profits. I want companies to grow. I'm a huge fan of companies that are just starting out, and people were able to get on this as a SPAC. But when the business strategy, when the overall infrastructure isn't there, like, you got to take a step back and look at the broad scheme and be like, what's happening here? I wish that I did that with Nikola. I want people to do that right now with Fisker. Take a second, take a breath. Look at the company. Where is it currently at? Does it deserve this price point? No, it has no revenue sales whatsoever. And it's really going to have minimal amount of revenue sales because it's nothing of their own. It's going to come from Magna. It's going to come from Foxconn. And they've already lost their first impression because of what has happened in the past for Fisker. So they don't really have a first impression.
It's incredibly difficult to recover, when the sentiment's been kind of shocked.
Exactly.
Negatively.
That's why Rivian, people are going to be, I don't want to go to a Fisker because history has shown they've given me a faulty technology.
People are, it's fair to say, hey, I'll believe it when I see it, right?
Yeah. They'd rather go to a Mach-E that gives you just amount of space from Ford, and they've provided a pretty quality vehicle, but they're still doing pretty good with Mach-E sales. You can go to a Polestar 3 that has support from Volvo, who has one of the best interior technologies. And then you have the Rivian coming out, which has been crazy hyped over the last 2 years. And the R1's going to be coming out next year. There's going to be a lot of people pushing, willing to pay that extra price point for support and sustainability, and really, like, you're getting a better product there.
Yeah, superior technical spec for sure.
And then you're getting something that's really questionable, that you're paying a cheaper price point. We yet to see if it's been solidified, but you're going to get the amount of technology for your money. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'd rather sit back, wait a little bit. I'd rather see people's responses and reviews on the vehicle itself when they're able to test drive it. Even maybe we can do it. Fisker, please, if you guys want us to like change our viewpoints on this, let us come out and test ride it when it's available.
I think it's fair to say you can turn skeptics into believers, but we got to see it to believe it, right?
Exactly. Right now, this is just look at my great technology.
Yeah.
You can't have it though. Not in your hand though. It's gonna be mine. I'll give you a year and a half. But it seems all smoke and mirrors right now, and we have to see people's actual reaction to the technology when it's up front of them before you even say that this price point's okay.
Well, and I think the takeaway from all of this is, analysts, credible or not credible, they're going to put out price targets that are going to create some buzz and excitement around stocks. And while we're all human, and we're inclined to eagerly hop in because of the FOMO, right? The message is, hey, do your homework, especially on the price, on the individual. Check their credibility, check their track record. Have they successfully called price targets well in just the short term and the long term? And I think it's fair to say, we're not in the business of just shitting on people, but like Adam Jonas does not have great credibility. No. And there's really nothing that's been articulated that provides any credence or merit to this. So again, we share the same enthusiasm. We want it to succeed, but I think we're both just saying cautiously keep your guard up. If you've broken even or trim profits, be smart. Be smart.
We're not licensed financial advisors. We want you to at least protect your money.
Yes. Who doesn't want to protect their money?
Exactly.
Well, I think we've said it all. I'm sure we'll find another opportunity to do a follow-up on this again. As always, folks, please tweet us your questions, like our YouTube channel, subscribe, sign up for notifications. We plan on doing more content like this. If you haven't already, check us out on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. We're everywhere. If you can't watch us conveniently, you're going to the grocery store, pop in your AirPods, listen to us on the go. Can't miss us. All right. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.